For this session, I wrote 50 words. For this session, I wrote 51 words, and my week's total word count is 521 words. It is 7 o'clock in the morning, and I am filming this vlog. I've been wanting to change things up in my flow yet again, so this morning my husband and I got up at 5. We drove to a sculpture garden park that's nearby our area, and we took a little stroll under the stars with Sybil. Then we got coffee afterward at Starbucks. I actually just poured it back into a mug and then reheated it in the microwave. But I got a misto with gingerbread syrup and white chocolate syrup with an extra shot of espresso. I've been wanting to incorporate more peaceful nature moments in my day. And so my idea is, when I'm not in the nadir phases of my cycle, which is when I need a lot of rest and downtime, I want to make it a commitment to get up early and seek out these quiet places in nature, and not necessarily to do the most or be highly active, but even just to take a few steps or take a few breaths of fresh air in that space and have that be a moment of solitude. And speaking of solitude, I feel like lately I have been in my hermit mode, and more so than usual. I mean, I definitely keep more to myself on a day-to-day basis anyways, but this season in particular just feels much more inward. And in the past, I've not really embraced my hermit seasons very well. I've often actually resisted it. But this time I am embracing it, and I'm treating it like a hygge, that Danish word, it's Hygge. I'm treating it like a hygge season for myself, where I'm definitely slowing things down intentionally, not setting any overly ambitious goals or tasks, doing what I really need and savoring the simplicity. In a way, it is a kind of fast from moving and living fast. And intuitively, I understand that this is really a psychic reset as a whole. So that's what's been on my mind lately. And I've mentioned this in previous vlogs, but I've definitely not put an agenda on my reading. If anything, I think I've also been intuitively taking a break from that as well. I've also been trying out a new journaling method. It's called Dopamine Days Journaling. And I actually have a link of the YouTuber who initiated this, I believe. I have his video in my writing tips playlist. This journaling method is basically just to capture the highlights of your day and to be able to use that as data input to help you recognize the activities that increase your excitement, aka your dopamine levels. And so I've been logging that on my phone, and I've been reviewing it pretty regularly to remind myself of the small activities that bring me joy and excitement and give me that sense of reward. And while the original poster, I think he does like one or two highlights per day, I'll list out a few, and then I'll actually rank them with the star eye emoji. So I'll use like 1 to 3 star eye emojis depending on how excited or uplifted I felt doing a particular activity. I think it's such a brilliant journaling method because it really helps me pay attention to the small activities that bring me joy and excitement and energy. And in paying attention to those kinds of things, I am able to create more of that in my life. It's kind of like when you're thinking about buying a car and you have the specifications of the car that you want, and you have that in mind and you start then seeing it everywhere in your life, there are lots of scientific components to that, but that's just the simple premise of it. That's the analogy of writing down your highlights and then thinking about them. You start seeing that more and more in your life, and you are able to then choose those opportunities that reflect what you are paying attention to. Let's talk about books. So I DNF'd Outlander, and it was enjoyable, but I don't know, I just felt like it was time to let something go. It was time to clear my slate a little bit, and I thought about Outlander and I was like, am I gonna miss this if I don't finish it? And truthfully, I was like, no, I'm not gonna miss this if I don't finish it. So I DNF'd, and what I have been continuing to read and enjoying thoroughly, I got back into Grow, which is a nature writing book. It is beautiful. I absolutely love this. Definitely a slow and indulgent read, but this is a translated work from German to English. So Grow, I've been reading. I have been reading Invitation to a Beheading by Vladimir Nabokov, also very, very good. And I realized something. So about this book, basically, it feels as if Vladimir Nabokov took on the literal brain of someone with multiple personality disorder and wrote this book. And so when I read it that way, it makes sense and I can understand what's happening. It is very beautifully written. It is very creative. So I will definitely be finishing this, and I am annotating this with my dog-eared annotations. So his phrasings are just so interesting. I just flipped to a random annotation on page 28, where a swan floats arm in arm with its reflection. And here's another one on page 28. But of course he could see nothing, only the hot sky with a few white hairs thinly combed back. I love the imagery of the sky being compared to a balding man with a few hairs combed back. Here are a few more lines that I really appreciated. On page 12, shoulder deep in thought. On page 14, oils of twilight. And also on page 14, a bowling ball rolled through his head. Basically, it seems to me that Nabokov really takes on these personas of aberrant characters in society, and he is quite like a method actor in that way, where he'll write literally in that point of view of somebody with such deviant mind. And I think about Lolita, which I read in high school and I don't really remember it. I think about rereading it sometimes, but I'm not really sure if I want to. But with Lolita, he essentially takes on the point of view of a pedophile. So that's what I'm noticing about this book as well. He's taken on the perspective of someone with multiple personality disorder. I have been reading some more of The Possessed, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm probably gonna pick up the pace on this because it's starting to get good. I feel like with Dostoevsky, you have like a big chunk where it's like a slow buildup and then everything else gets unhinged thereafter. And let me clarify, this is already good. I am enjoying the 162 pages I've read so far of this. What I meant was that the pace is picking up in the book, things are happening, and we know with Dostoevsky, it starts to get really wild, like probably around here or so, sometimes here. And then lastly, I have been slow reading Harry Potter and the Order of Phoenix. I am almost done with it, so I could probably knock this out like in one session. However, I've slowed down on this book because I forgot how actually intense it is. And usually when I'm reaching for Harry Potter, I'm reaching for it for some lighter fare read, but with it being heavy in theme, I was like, oh, like this is kind of not light. but I'm still reading this because it helps me get into the frame of mind to write for my second manuscript, which is a cozy magical novel. The coffee is in my system. I feel much more alive and awake, and the sun is now shining through. But that is all that I have for this vlog, and then once I finish up my writing session later today, I'll add that snippet in the end. For this session, I wrote 72 words.